3, 2, 1, you're live. I've still got my twat microphone. So it's Friday. Have a beer. Tonight I'm drinking Abbott's Ale. I normally drink the other one, but I've forgotten the name of it. But tonight I wanted one of these because it's nice. But I wanted to talk about the Undead, the first 7 days. I want to talk about that. But I want to read this first. So I'm going to read this. Some people might recognise this and others might not. So the very first readers of the Undead might recognise this. The Undead, I'm going to read it. The Undead, and I'm not a narrator, so don't judge me on this. The Undead, the first 7 days, R. Haywood. My name is Howie. I was named after my father, Howard. But it became too confusing to have two Howards, so I became Howie. I'm 27 years old and I work as a night manager in a supermarket. The following is an account of what happened during the worst 7 days that the earth has ever seen. Ah, that was different. Day 1. Alright, listen to this. At first it was just a news story. A madman somewhere had run amok in a busy European city centre on a Friday night, attacking people and biting into them. It only caught the attention of news channels because there was mobile phone footage showing the attacks. But within hours, the television channels were all taken over by news bulletins and special reports. Conflicting stories of widespread outbreaks of violence with random people being attacked by crazed savages who were lunging and biting at them. Groups of maniacs were seen dragging people to the floor and eating them. The hazy video had famous landmarks in the background and showed people shouting and running in all directions. Then a police officer was shown standing next to a patrol car with blue and red lights flashing. He fired his pistol at something out of view, and then he was engulfed by bodies. The person holding the phone screamed as they ran away. It all happened within hours, and it spread so fast across Europe to places that even I had heard of. Cities and towns were quickly overcome with violent attacks, and some news reports suggested that the attackers were biting and tearing at the flesh, then running off to find another victim. Images flashed across the screen of those victims with horrific injuries, and pretty soon all censorship was gone and they were showing brutal and violent scenes. The police seemed unable to contain the violent attacks, and some countries were bringing troops in to try and restore order. The news anchors were calm at first, but as the night progressed they became increasingly concerned, and it wasn't long before they ran out of cliched comments. News channels are brilliant at finding experts to give live testimony as events unfold, but as all of this happened so fast, there were no experts. This wasn't terrorism, a plane crash, or a natural disaster. I imagine that the producers would be frantically going through their lists of experts trying to work out who to call. But the story developed too quickly, and within hours it was in Central Europe. At first, the so-called experts talked about civil disorder, then riots, and this quickly progressed to revolution, an attempt to overthrow the governments. As more and more reports came in, they started using words like pathogens, microbes, and airborne organisms. And the news anchors tried desperately to make sense of a continent exploding in widespread violence. To begin with, I watched the start of the events feeling detached and safe, but as it spread and came closer, I felt more and more uneasy, and then downright scared. It's late at night, and most of the people I know will be in bed, but I want to share this with someone. I tried to send a text, but my phone is indicating there is no network coverage, which is strange as the signal is normally excellent. I keep trying, but there is just an empty signal bar. As I become more freaked out, I pick up my landline and dial my parents' number, but it's engaged. They might be trying to call me, so I hang up. After a few minutes of waiting, I try again, still engaged. I try my sister in London, engaged. Wow. Oh, hang on, I'll skip forward a bit. I go back to the television and keep trying the telephone, numbers I know, and after a few minutes I hear footsteps outside in the street. Fast footsteps. I look out to a normal suburban road with houses on both sides and orange-coloured streetlights. As I look down the road, I can see a really fat man trying to run. As he comes into view, I see him looking back. He's wearing a suit, his tie is pulled down, and the top buttons of his shirt are undone. Oh my god, I haven't read this for years. Fuck no. Excuse me. I promised myself I wasn't going to swear on but it's not a podcast. I wasn't going to swear on this not a podcast tonight. So this here, right? look. This is The very first, the Undead, the first 7 days, Haywood. That was my first attempt at trying to make my own cover on, God, it was called Create Space. So older Amazon authors will remember, I'm sure it's called Create Space, and that's where we used to make our paperbacks, and you just made them up. Or did you import them? I can't remember. But either way, I fell for the trap of using red writing on a black background. I thought it looked cool, but you can't see it. It's so bad. You can just about see the name there, but the Undead, the first 7 days in such tiny writing there, you can't even see it. That's how fucked up it was. And then on the back there's just that. But that was the first attempt for the Undead, the first 7 days. So I was addicted to post-apocalyptic fiction, and I'd ploughed through everything, absolutely everything I could on post-apocalyptic fiction, zombie fiction. I was reading everything. This is back in 2012, and I just couldn't get enough. And then I discovered Kindle, so I was plowing my way through all the Kindle books. And then I read a book, I've talked about this loads of times, I read a book called 3 Feet of Sky by Stephen Ayres. And it was a really unique, different, vibrant story. And it was so, it was so awesome the way it was written and the humour in it. And I immediately tried to find out who the author was, and there's no information. And eventually I kind of realised that this guy'd self-published. And that was it. My mind was just like, I didn't even know self-publishing was a thing. So I was like, I'm going to try this. So I looked into it, and I looked at the software that was available. Amazon were so far ahead of the game. It was just nuts. You literally just wrote up a book on Word and then imported it. Oh man, it was just, they made it so easy. What was the other one that everyone used to use? Smashwords. But that was really difficult. I remember that was really hard, using Smashwords. I think it was Smashwords. But I remember having massive difficulty with the formatting. Anyway, I'm jumping ahead. So, yeah, I thought, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write my own kind of story, and I'm going to call it The Undead Day 1, and it's just a zombie story. And I'd always got really pissed off with not pissed off, but the market was saturated with American fiction, post-apocalyptic fiction. Something bad happened, and they could just run for the cupboard and just take out machine guns and grenades and rifles and whatever other weapons and tanks in their fucking garages and stuff. And I thought, well, what was if it was just a normal British guy at home on his own, just an absolutely average person, and how would he react to it with no training at all, with no background in special forces or being a cop or being a firefighter or anything at all? So I wanted to really approach it from an average person, and I wanted to do it in the first person. And the other thing that I was really, that I found myself longing for, was more detail. I was a police officer. That is my hat. That's the hat that I wore. So I was a police officer, and obviously, so that means that attention to detail was important. And a lot of the post-apocalyptic fiction I was reading, and horror fiction, it would cover the big event that happened, and then it would skim forward 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. So you see this, a big, incredible event happened, and then everyone's living in a valley eating carrots that they've grown, wearing wool from sheep and stuff. And I go, well, what happened on the second day? What happened on the third day and the fourth day and the fifth day? How long does water come out the tap for? How long does the power stay on for? How long can you use fuel in a car for? How long will a car battery work? I wanted to know all these things, and I wanted to see how the world changed around us day by day, more than that, hour by hour, minute by minute. And as well, I wanted to see, because bearing in mind this is 2012, so by then we'd had a good few years of being able to access stuff on the internet. So we were now able to see firsthand live raw accounts of natural disasters. not just news, not just what the news channels wanted us to see, but real raw news footage and footage captured by ordinary people. And that really interested me, you know. So particularly in the UK, we've got a very strong law and order system. Something goes wrong, you can phone the police, you can phone the fire service, you can phone the ambulance service, someone's going to come, someone's going to help. You can scream for help, your neighbour's going to hear you. Not always, but for the most part, we live in an urban, developed country. And I thought, what if that's taken away? How will people cope? How would they deal with things? When will the transition come with the realisation that there is no help coming to, I need to take responsibility for me now, or my family. I need to source food, clean water. I need to find a weapon. And what kind of weapon? Where'd you get a weapon from? So there was all that, and I just wanted to put all that together. So I came up with the Undead Day One. I didn't call it the Undead Day One. I didn't call it anything. I just wrote it. So I started off with that first one. That was the very first thing I ever wrote properly. I'd written dozens and dozens and dozens of stories before as a child. As an adult, that was the first thing that I wrote. And I finished it and I put it out. And it was a few years later when I'd understood a lot more about writing, and I went back and I fixed it all up. And so that was the first one, for the Undead Day One. And then once I'd fixed it, I then got a proper cover artist called Eduardo, who was a Spanish chap. I absolutely adore him. He's so cool. And he did all the original covers. So he made that second cover for the Undead, the first 7 days. And I still love this. This has got such a special place in my heart. And downstairs, I've got a big collage on a framed wooden thing showing all the original colours with covers, with that one in the middle. And then obviously the Undead, the first 7 days, then changed to, my name is Howie. I was named after my father Howard, but it became too confusing to have two Howards, so I became Howie. I'm 27 years old and I work as a night manager in a supermarket. This is my account. So I trimmed that front down. I remember that. And there is a reason for that. So the first one said, the following is an account of what happened during the worst 7 days that the earth has ever seen. Now I'm remembering this as I'm talking. So I got an editor. So I put the books out. I couldn't afford editors. It was really bad. Really, really bad. In terms of grammar, punctuation, flow, structure, basic English language. I only ever went to high school. I never went any further than that. So the first editor said, I can't write in the present tense, because you said, who is the character talking to? Who are they telling? Hello, Dolly. Hello, baby. She said, who are you telling the story to? And I just couldn't get my head around that. I'm like, well, what do you mean? And she said, how he's narrating the story to the reader. I'm like, yeah, he is, yeah. Hello, baby. And then, so she said, well, who is he telling it to? And I go, fuck, he's telling it to the reader. You go, no, what's the device he's using to tell it to the reader? I'm like, what the fuck? I just couldn't get it. I was like, And it was wrong. It was bad advice. She said, you can't, it's either got to be a diary format. And I'm like, that's lame. Just have him telling it. It doesn't matter. No one gives a shit. If the story's good, it's good. If it's not, it's not. You go, no, it has to be a diary entry. You have to make it seem that he's writing it, telling it to someone later. It's a video format, a diary format. It's got to be something. You can't just have first person narration without explaining how that narration is taking place. And so I went, okay, all right. And that's how that ended up going in to that, the first bit, my name is Howie, the intro. The following is an account of what happened during the worst 7 days that the earth has ever seen. And then it was later that I realised that's a crock of shit. And you could do whatever the fuck you want, and there are no rules. So I took it out. And I don't think anyone's ever mentioned it again. Literally nobody. And if they have, I've just completely ignored them, because it doesn't make a blind bit of difference. Beer! So yes, there are no rules to writing. So if an editor tells you there's a rule and you must specifically do it this way, you don't have to. You can ignore them. So then we went back and we rewrote it. I say we, I did. And I put it back into it a lot more full. But this was, oh man. So when did I rewrite it? After I'd completed the whole of the first 7 days, possibly day 8 and day 9. In my head, I'm thinking it's probably around day 10. Somebody out there might know better than me. In my memory, I'm thinking it's probably around day 10. What do you think, Dilly? It's probably around then. I went back and I rewrote it. And then I opened it in the supermarket. So I took the story right back. I was like, who's Howie? Who's this character? Who have we got? What's he doing? And also with the first one, and I've since learnt as well, that it kind of does the job. It's clumsy and awkward, the first one that I just read out to you. It's clumsy and awkward, but it does the job. It gets the information over. But I came to learn, because obviously I'm a reader first, and I've got this thing that if you want to start writing books, you've got to have read about 1,000 books before you even go near trying to write something. Just my personal view. And of course I wrote this, and then I'm looking at all the other books that are really good, and I think, well, this isn't very good. What are they doing that's very good, that's different to mine? And it's backstory. It's the narrator. It's the prose. It's not dialogue. It's not action. So I've started the story off with telling the reader what's going on, and then that comes down to show, don't tell. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I went back and thought, well, I want to show the reader how this happens. I don't want to tell the reader this happened. I don't want to tell the reader that Howie sat on the sofa watching this news story. I want to show the reader that Howie sat on the sofa watching this news story. But then, who's Howie sat on the sofa watching the news story? I said, well, let's go back. Let's put him into work. And by the time I came back to fix it later, I'd already met Dave and gone on lots of adventures. And I was intrigued about how Howie and Dave worked at Tesco. And of course, that much later forms quite an important part of the story. So I went back. And then we've got the new opening, which then also signposts it as Friday. So that's when I learnt to start signposting and giving things dates and locations and times. And this one opens up with, the unseasonably hot weather has caught us all out. Not just our store, but stores right across the region. Head office are working around the clock to get the summer seasonal stock out to us. In the meantime, if we get customer inquiries, then please, and I say it again, please direct the customer to our online services and assist them with in-store ordering. Also, try to remind them that they can purchase online and collect in store. My God, this is boring. I'm hot and uncomfortable. Being the night manager means most of this doesn't apply to me. I can't see our usual quota of taxi drivers, drunks and what other poor sods coming into the store at night asking why we don't have Bermuda shorts on offer yet, or why we've only got 10 different sun creams instead of over bloody 30 of them. Wow. Shit, that's me. This is like being in school when the teacher is droning on and then suddenly stops and looks at you. So yes, I rewrote it to that one. And it's better, it is better. And then of course, that was the cover that launched the Undead, and that became a bit dark in here. But so that's the cover that kind of launched the Undead, and because the Undead, the first 7 days, became the biggest selling book of the Undead. Obviously, most people read the Undead the first 7 days rather than day one as an individual book, rather than the Undead day one. So that image became the most popular image associated with the Undead. And then it was years later that it then progressed up. And I decided, I'd never diss Eduardo's artwork because I love his artwork. And I'm incredibly proud of the original artwork. But there comes a point when I wanted a more mainstream appeal to the Undead. And I wanted to step away from the kind of the horror font, as it were. This is called Lycanthrope. I remember that font. and I wanted to step away from that and then give it more Undead. So I approached I'd already done Extracted by then, the 3 Extracted books, and I'd started working with a cover artist called Mark Swan, and I went to Mark and said to him, would you be interested in redesigning the whole of the Undead? And I think by that point it was like 19 or 20, 21, 22, 22 books, and 22 books. So he did the whole lot, plus the two compilation editions, and then of course it came to that one, which now is the main image that represents the Undead. So you can see it behind me on the wall there. But how did the whole thing come about? That's the question. Yeah. So I had a massive love for a post-apocalyptic fiction, and not so much. I did enjoy horror. I wasn't as addicted to horror. I loved post-apocalyptic fiction. What happens after? What comes after? How do people cope? How do people deal with things? How does that happen? So I started off with the Undead Day 1, and it was, for me, it was just a short story. And I threw this character, Howie, into these scenes. I didn't really have a plan at all. It was all completely linear. The whole thing was made up as I went along. I had no scenes in mind. I had nothing in mind, nothing at all. And I wanted to just see what it was like to put words on a page and get a character emotion. And one character, there's very little dialogue. And then he goes out of his flat, runs, has a little fight in the town centre, gets on his push bike, cycles up the dual carriageway. Car crash, tries to help the woman dies, turns. He then, he gets into the village, doesn't he, where his dad used to take him for cakes. And he goes to the shop, and he has a cigarette, and then there's a zombie there, and he throws the cash register at him, kills that zombie. More zombies come. He goes upstairs, burns them all with a Molotov cocktail, pukes up. Or does he puke up at home? Oh, I can't remember. And then he gets out, doesn't he? And he goes to the garage down the road, and he steals a Nissan Micra. Yes, he does. He steals a Nissan Micra, and then he gets home to his mum and dad's house and finds the letter. And they said, "We're waiting for you. We'll come back." And that was it. That was the end of day. Yeah, it was. Yes, Howie. Dad got a phone call last night from an old colleague working in France that said what was happening. Yeah, that was it. So that's it. Yeah, that was the Undead Day 1. And I just fell in love. Oh my God, I was smitten. Oh man, I'll never forget that feeling. It just... I read a lot. I've been reading a lot recently about other writers writing books telling other people how to write, like education books on how to write fiction, how to do this, and creative writing for dummies. I've just been looking into it because and there's one of the writers said there's nothing like finishing your first book, and mine was only a short story. But that was it. I was just in love. I was a police officer at the point. I was dedicated to my career. I absolutely loved it, but nothing came close to that feeling of. And it wasn't even that I was putting it out for people to read it. No one read it when I released it on Amazon. I think a handful of people I knew read the early version and was like, "It's all right." I think they were just being polite. Yeah, it's really good. It's amazing. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Did you enjoy writing it? That's the thing. I fucking hate it when people say that to me. When I send books out to pre-readers, did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy writing it? I wouldn't have fucking done it otherwise. I get. I'm not attacking anyone when I say that. It's, I get it. It's an obvious question to ask, but yeah. So I wrote the Undead Day 1, and I put it out. No one read it at all, but I was smitten. But I did realise from an early stage, I've got a big from picking up a decent, polished, good novel, even a self-published one like 3 Feet of Sky by Stephen Ayres, or a bestselling author like Stephen King or James Herbert or any number of other authors, I realised how low my skill level was in comparison to the level that, obviously, the bar being very high, that you set and you think, I want to be out there, I want to be doing what they're doing. So I realised how far off I was when I'd finished the Undead day one. I was like, my God. And to me, it felt like a 5-year-old writing with a crayon, literally holding the crayon like that, like, raw. It felt so bad and clumsy and awkward. Pardon me. But I put it out, and then I thought, what I'll do is I'll do 7 books. And with each book, I'll use it as a way of teaching myself to write. So, day 1, words on a page, character in motion, moving from A to B. Pardon me. Yeah, and that's it. Give it a little arc. I didn't give a shit about acts, 3-act structure. I didn't give a toss about character arcs, about resolutions. I didn't know any of it. I really didn't. And I just didn't give a shit. And I think looking back, that stood me in such good stead. Because I just didn't care about the rules. I came from the police, where we had actual regulations and laws that dictated how we did things. And there were massively serious consequences for how you investigate crimes and how you conduct yourself and how you write reports. So someone telling me that there's a fucking rule about first person perspective, it didn't correlate. It didn't match the world that I came from with the law and order and regulations that I had over me in my career. So I just didn't give a shit. I just didn't care. So then I did the end of day 2. I thought, okay, so the end of day 2, I want to get dialogue, 2 characters moving together. But I was terrified of dialogue. I was really scared of it because dialogue's hard. If you get dialogue wrong, it fucks your story up. It can be jarring, it can be clumsy, it can be awkward, it can be really weird. So I thought, okay, I want to get 2 characters in play here together, but I'm scared of dialogue. So what I'll do is, and I'd been exposed to a lot of people with autism. I thought, well, I'll make the character autistic, so he doesn't speak, or he only speaks in one-word answers. And that's just me just cheating because I didn't know how to do dialogue. So that was Dave. That's how Dave came about. Howie went back to Tesco's, went back to Borough Fair, meet Dave, and Dave is, yes, Mr. Howie. No, Mr. Howie. And that's it. He gives those answers. And that was easy for me. Because then Howie gets to fill in the dialogue from his side without having to have action-reaction. Because that's what you have, when you're writing dialogue, you have to capture that realism. I can't stand exposition in any form. What I mean by that is I can't stand writers using dialogue as a method to tell the reader, viewer on TV something. It's fucking clumsy. I hate it. I can't stand it. And even back then, I was like, oh God, I don't want to do that. I don't ever want to do that. And I was really quite strict. So and I tried to avoid exposition wherever possible to make the dialogue as natural and as normal as possible. And that's why when, like now, I know I've got a habit of sometimes speaking in half sentences. I'll start a sentence, my brain is going faster than my gob, and then so I stop that sentence and I'm jumping onto another sentence. In my head, I've finished the first sentence, but I just haven't finished it in my mouth. My sister's always pulling me up. She goes, stop, finish sentence. I'm like, and I have to go back. And taking statements from people in the police, people did that in the police. Well, you know, you had blue on, and then you come out of the house and, like, you know, just, there was enough. And in their head, they're telling you a whole story because they can see the visuals, they can remember these things that happen to them. But the reality is they don't tell you all that in words. And there's also a lot of it that they give in non-verbal communications. And it was trying to capture that. And that's why a lot of my dialogue has ums, ers, ahs, pauses, breaks, fractured sentences, because I really wanted to capture that realism. So day 2, two characters in motion, and I wanted, and the other thing that I wanted to capture was the realism of violence and carnage. Because I think by then, even then, Marvel stuff was becoming really popular, and Marvel is violence without consequence, isn't it? You can have, and DC is as well to an extent. People talk about it being dark and violent, but you don't really see, especially with Marvel, you don't see broken bones, you don't see bones poking out of skin, you don't see lacerations and cuts and bloods and bloody noses and broken noses and cartilage, and you don't see that. You know, you don't turn up and see someone's kneecaps twisted the wrong way around on their body. Nor do you see the absolute shock of violence, that adrenaline when your whole body's shaking. So I was seeing this stuff on a daily basis in my career, and then you're watching these big Hollywood movies coming out, and you're going, "That's not fucking violence. What the fuck is that?" And in a way, you're kind of teaching children that violence is acceptable because there's no consequence to it. And then when children go out and become horrifically violent, you're wondering, why did that come from? And I'm not saying there's a causal link to it, but there is a fucking causal link to it. But it's the lack of consequence to violence is a huge thing for me. And that's why years later, when something like The Boys on Amazon Prime Video came out, that's massively, that shows the other side to it. What the actual consequences to violence. It shows the other side. And I just think that's massively important. It's such a good counterbalance to that. So when I'm coming along with the Undead, I really wanted to show the graphic nature of violence. And it's not there. And I wanted to also make it comedic, because I've just got, everything I talk about, everything I do is got driven by humour. And the world I'm from, the police world, which is very similar to military, fire service, ambulance, emergency services, we're exposed to carnage and death all the bloody time. And the only way we can deal with that is by having a real dark sense of humour. So I wanted to capture all those things. So I put that into the Undead Day 2. So we've got more violence. And it's still one of my favourite scenes when they go into the DIY shop at the end, and how he just he embraces his inner devil and just goes fucking nuts. And I think isn't he got lump hammers and sledgehammers, and that he ends up with a chainsaw, doesn't he? Yeah. And Dave, see, even then I'm thinking, wow, Dave's just seen something in Howie. He's just seen that there's something there, that Howie isn't becoming infected, and he's up for this, and he's got an ability to fight. So that was the Undead Day 2. And in the Undead Day 3, two characters in motion, dialogue, scene transition. And that's quite hard, scene transition. You can, and a lot of writers fall foul of this. I used to read books that I really, really enjoyed. Even now, I'm picking up some incredible best-selling books that are reviewed to high heaven. And you only see the characters in the big scenes. You don't see them in the transitions. You don't see them moving between places. So back then I was thinking, well, I want to see that. How do they get to places? What do they talk about when they get in there? Because you see these, when I'm reading these books, science fiction books, horror, any genre, classics, you see the characters doing the thing, having the big talk, having the big fight, and then they're in the next place doing the same thing again. And it's like nothing happened in between. I'm like, but that's not realistic either, because life happens in between. Real life, the consequence of what you've just done, or the fear of what you might have to go and do next. And just normal things like needing a toilet, needing to drink, needing to eat. And again, I wanted to see the world around us. And I really thought about if all of a sudden there's no humanity, there's no traffic, the air quality is just going to be improved massively. And we bloody saw it years later when COVID kicked in and the lockdowns were on and the roads were all empty, and we saw the wildlife just go nuts. I forgot my point. This is what happens when you get old, isn't it, Deli? So day 3, I wanted to get two characters in motion, moving from place to place, scene to scene. So I had... I did Marcus, didn't I, in the nightclub scene? That was day 2, wasn't it? Before Dave. Yeah, and that was just the surreal nature. I think by then I'd already discovered my love of kind of surreal humour. I'll just chuck that in there, see what happens. That was quite good. I still love that. Giselle with the big zombie boob. He's a pervert. Anyway, so then he meets Dave, yeah, and then day three. Day three is the farmhouse. And the obese woman that gets stuck in the doorway. And that sets Howie off as laughing. And of course, Dave is completely po-faced because he's autistic. But I just thought, even then I thought there's a feeling that Dave's humour's locked on the inside. And I just had that feeling that he could... Oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Don't drink beer and try and do not a podcast. It's terribly bad habits. But I had this feeling that Dave could feel humour, have humour, but just couldn't show humour. So with that, with the obese lady that gets stuck in a door and it sets Howie off. Yeah, I remember that with the farmhouse. And then they find the guns, don't they? And then Dave teaches Howie how to shoot. Howie's really shit at it, so I think Dave just gives him a shotgun. Something like that. And then there was the dog, wasn't there? The border collie. They gave it some water. And I thought that I found that quite upsetting, so I kind of avoided dog-related stuff after that. Because I'm so obsessed with dogs. I grew up with dogs, I breed dogs. So I kind of... People have said, where are all the dogs? I don't want but I've got an idea for that later on. So perhaps we'll come back to dogs. But I remember, yeah, so that was day three. And then... And I wanted bigger. I had a taste then. And I want something bigger. I want something bigger. So I thought, well, I go into Portsmouth and there's a commune there. And they get to that commune. And... John Jones? Oh, God, I can't remember it so long ago. And they have to deal with that. And that's my first kind of foray. I want something bigger than this. Just two people, and all of a sudden they stumble into something. And it's... And because I grew up watching things like Clint Eastwood movies. And I love the old Clint Eastwood cowboy western movies. Where he's just kind of dum-ba-dum-ba-dum-ba-dum. He's going along and he just bundles into something that's got nothing to do with him. And he ends up saving everybody. And I liked that idea with Howie and Dave. They're trying to survive this post-apocalyptic world. They've got no idea what's going on. They want to get to Salisbury to get an APS, APC. And they bumble into this thing going on in Portsmouth with these people being held against their will. And it's perhaps a little bit unrealistic because it's so quick. It so happens so quick, day three. And they end up resolving it and shooting people. And then we start to see how he's kind of real type A personality coming out. You know, his forthrightness, his refusal to back down. I think we saw that with the nightclub owner. But that, I think with it's the commune in day three that we first really see how he's, that thing inside of him really show. Because he takes them all out and he gets the little lad, doesn't he? And that's where yes, Mr. Howie comes from. Because the lad is like, when Howie's questioning him in the street when they find him, and the lad's just going, yeah, and Howie snaps and he's like, yes, or something like that. I can't remember exactly. And then Dave picks up on it and he says, yeah, and he always tells people yes, not yeah. That was quite cool. And then they end up... Is it day three they end up in the police station? They do, don't they? With Debbie Hopewell. Sergeant Debbie Hopewell and Ted. And Terry Trixie. And... Oh my God, I'm struggling to remember. Tom and Stephen. And I think there was another one. Buggered if I can remember it though. Whoa. That's such a long time ago. So they get to the police station. And that ends that. And then day four. So day four I wanted to teach myself merging narratives. Have two sets of things going on and pull them together. So we've got Howie and Dave with the people in the police station. And then we introduce Lieutenant Galloway Gibbs at Salisbury Plain. And we meet the lads. Yes, we meet the lads. We meet Blowers, Cookie, Nick, Curtis, Tucker, Jamie, Booker. We meet all those people. And I think, so in retrospect, knowing what I knew later, if I was to write that now, I would have put Blinky in there. Blinky obviously came in much later with Charlie and Day 17. I would have put Blinky in with the lads there. That, and I'd always, that would have done that. But if I ever make a TV series or a movie of the Undead, I will put Blinky into that. So she's one of the lads from the very start. So yes, I had two emerging narratives going on there. So we've got this set of characters in the place where Howie and Dave need to get to. So the storylines merge. And I also wanted to explore the absolute utter ridiculousness that was coming into the police at the time. That time, 'cause that was 2012, 2013, and it was a real onset of, they call it goes through different names, doesn't it? Political correctness, woke culture. Those things, for the most part, are good because they raise our awareness and they make us better people. But what I noticed in the police was there was a lot of meetings going on where nothing ever got resolved. People just talked about the issues that were going on and came up with plans about the issues that were going on, but didn't do anything about the issues that were going on. And they all got promoted because of it, and they patted each other on the back and they gave each other rewards for it. Seriously. And a huge number of police officers do that. 90% of police officers cluster around that ethos of, let's talk about it, let's plan for it, let's produce spreadsheets and bulletin for and I can't remember the bloody name of it. PowerPoint. Fuck. Oh god. Oh, I remember that shit. Oh my days. And how to reduce crime without actually putting your fucking hat on and going out and stopping the bad people doing the bad thing. It's not rocket science. It's really not. And I wanted to capture that. So that's why we have the ridiculousness of that absolutely stupid meeting. The world's gone to shit. And that would fucking happen. It happened then and it would happen now. You would get people clinging to the rules while all around them, their own eyes can see the whole world's going to rat shit, everything's gone wrong, there's a nuclear bomb going off outside, and they'll still be trying to hold a meeting with debris and dust falling from the ceiling and windows blowing out, and they'll still be talking about rules and rotors and all that kind of fucking hell. Ugh. So yeah. I was going to go off into a tangent about policing then, but I shall come back and talk about books. So that I wanted to capture that. And I also wanted to capture the kind of stoic nature of Ted, the old cop. Been there, done that, good steady hand. You know, this guy can turn up and deal with anything. He's never going to get jaded. You know, proper copper. And then the excitability of the younger coppers, you know, and PCSOs and that kind of nature. So that I enjoyed writing that, and it was my first kind of okay, and it was learning then how you can address things going on in society without being a preachy twat, because you don't want to be a preachy twat. And when I read books that are preachy, I'm like, fuck off, don't preach to me. I'm trying to read a book and I want to escape from that. But when it's done in a kind of satirical, piss-taking, tongue-in-cheek way, that it holds a mirror up to society without it being preachy, you can go, yeah, that's fucking stupid. Why would we do that? That's fucking ridiculous. So that was my first kind of foray into that. And then obviously you got the lads' frustration in Salisbury because they can't go out and do the thing they want to do and fight and kill zombies because Galloway Gibbs is such a coward that he won't let them. And then we get those two narratives. Howie and Dave get there, and then all of a sudden we see that again in Howie, that leadership, that reluctant leadership. I want to do something, I want to achieve something, I need to go over there and get it, but there's also you here, so I help you quickly to go and do the thing that I want to do. And he has those flashes of charisma, magnetism, and it's led by capability. It's led at the front, so he's a front charging leader. I'll go first. I'll do this, and if you want to follow me, that's great. And so that galvanizes people to go after him. And he's kind, and he's respectful, and he's decent, and he uses manners, And those things mean something to me. Kindness and doing the right thing for the right reasons and decency. You know, always being honest and don't take from other people. So then Howie and they have that big fight at the end again. Again, I wanted that big ending, you know, and they do it and they win. Yeah, and the heroes. And that's really cool. So that was day 4. And then I put day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, I put them out together as a little compilation called The Undead, the first 4 days. And that started picking up just a few little reviews. And I was like, oh my God. And I remember after a week or something, I'd had something like 30 downloads. I was like, oh my fucking God, I felt like Stephen King. I really did. I was like, oh my God, I fucking made it. Oh man. It's so exciting. And that feeling has never left me. Even now, it just blows my mind that I can write something and put it out and people will download it. I'm like, just still love that feeling. Still. Even when I release a book now, self-published, and I can see the first sales going out, and I see the first 10, 20, 30, and it's quick now. I mean, that's such a lovely thing to be able to say. But even then, I still get that same feeling. It's still amazing. So I'll put that out, and I was like, day 5. Okay, so let's do more merging narratives again. So we've got, oh my God, I'm probably going to get this completely wrong. Don't we introduce, I think I introduced Howie's sister in London. And we've got the lads. Petrol station, rats, cat. Petrol station. That's what we did. I did who's fucking we? I keep saying we. I did. Petrol station. Yeah, they go to petrol station. And I really wanted to because in the police, back then, God, we used to play some jokes on each other. It was never nasty stuff. We were never, the people I worked with, the real good, hard-working cops would never punch down and belittle anyone. We never made stupid, sexist, homophobic, racist jokes. Just didn't fucking do it. But we would take great pleasure in ripping the shit out of each other. And especially when it comes to things like lockers and paperwork bins. You'd take someone's locker to the other side of town, photograph it, and then go back to the police station and put the photograph of their locker on the other side of town where their locker was. So we used to do stupid things like that. People's cars would get jacked up and moved and turned around and put back. Just stupid things. So I really wanted to kind of get that. I knew that's very prevalent in emergency services and military. So I had the lads. They get to this motorway service station. There's another guy there who's been a complete dick, and they just strip him off and steal his trousers. And I just thought that's just so fitting, and I really liked it. And then we got the whole rat thing, and I'm starting to explore the nature of the virus and what it can do and what it's going on. And that interested me because you didn't see that before in a lot of post-apocalyptic things. I was really interested to see what's this virus doing, what's the nature of it, and now I'm starting to explore the virus as an entity, as a thing with a voice. And that was fascinating. I really enjoyed that. I really loved exploring that. And then we've got Howie's sister. So she's in her flat in London. How does she survive? How does she get by? Outside there's just bazillions of zombies, and she's never going to be able to escape. But she kind of copes, doesn't she, and survives. And then, do you know, for the life of me, I can't remember the ending to day 5. Yeah, no, shut up, I do. Isn't it that Darren, isn't Dave teaching Jamie how to be a sniper? And there's a zombie that Darren is going to go and kill. Jamie snipes him from a distance, and a drop of blood from the zombie goes into Darren's lip. Is that the ending to day 5? I think that's the ending to day 5. So then the infection is inside of Darren. So Darren becomes the first control point. So the infection realizes the infection has evolved enough to be able to understand that certain people have a genetic ability to be different to others. Darren is the first. And so then day 6, again, I wanted to expand the story. So day 6 is much bigger story, and I wanted multiple scenes, multiple characters, and I wanted to teach myself to tell the story, and lots of transition, lots of motion, lots of tension, lots of build up. The big rescue, we get to Howie's sister, we meet Big Chris, Clarence Malcolm, the commune, Doc Roberts. So again, there's these big scenes, the transitions between, the dialogue, and I'm still learning so much about how to write and how to do this. And they rescue Sarah. We see Darren's slow transformation. He starts feeling sick and whatnot. Pardon me. And then there's the big standoff. How's it? The big standoff on? Is it on the bridge, London Bridge, or near London Bridge? Yeah. Darren turns, and there's a big fight, and Darren's trying to be heroic. Doesn't he get taken away? God, I'm so sorry. My memory's awful. Anyway, Darren gets taken. He's turned, and then we've got the first proper, like, organised horde, not just individual zombies all charging and attacking, driven by their own need. There's a collective. They're a super organism, and they're controlled by Darren, and we see them. And I just thought, oh, that's so sinister. When they start marching on the spot, I can hear the boots in my head, the footsteps on the ground, dunk, 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 and they all laugh at the same time. They all make noises at the same time. And you imagine being in that situation. You go, you would fucking shit yourself. You would. And and I think that's the first time when Howie's like, fuck this, and runs away. Doesn't he run? I'm sure he runs away. And they all run away. And I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. So that's day 6. And then obviously day 7 is the culmination. I wanted the big battle, the big final fight, good versus evil, the God versus the devil. And I wanted to write a full novel. So day 7 is, I think it's 70,000 words, which is classed so it's a novel. And I wanted to bring all these elements together. The threat of Darren coming, how he's getting into the fort. Debbie Hopewell's already there. So then all of a sudden I wanted to explore the political nature of trying to deal with a group of people that all come from different backgrounds. So we've got engineers, military people, medical people, civilian infrastructure people, police officers, and they're all trying to wrangle power, deal with ideas, while this threat's coming towards them, while some of them still aren't comprehending the danger they're in and the need for urgency. And in times like that, you can't have committee-style meetings where everybody discusses options. You've got to be able to have that strong leader that go, can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this? Get the information quickly and then just go, fucking right, do that. That's it. And it might not always be the best decision, but any decision is better than no decision. Always. It's indecision that kills in situations. So Howie has that decisive ability. We're going to do this. We're going to put caltrops down. We're going to dig trenches. We're going to do this. And they're not all his ideas. There's other people jumping in as well. But he's leading from the front. It's his energy. It's his rawness. And even people like Big Chris and Clarence, these experienced, seasoned soldiers, even they're giving deference to this fucking supermarket manager. And Dave's obviously clinging to Howie. We've got our core group with him. And so then the big battle approaches, and I wanted to explore, how is all this done? How do they prep? How do they get ready? How do they make the cannons work? How do you make fucking cannons work? How do you do all these things? What would I do if that was coming? And then things like fuel tanker going off. It's like going to be like a nuclear bomb. And I was looking at footage and going, what happens if a petrol station explodes? Fuck, have you seen the fireball that comes from a petrol station explosion? And they're underground tanks. Or from a fuel tanker. You go, that's just nuts, isn't it? So I'm thinking, well, Dave, let's make him a real good explosive expert. So then he takes Jamie, starts prepping the housing estate. The flatlands are all prepped. the fort's prepped. They've got archers and marksmen, and that's it. That's all they can do. And they've just got this. They've just got this wall of death coming at them. This approaching army of darkness, and it really was. You know, when I was reading things like Lord of the Rings and the Dark Tower series, it's that continual good versus evil, wrong versus right, bad versus good. You do the right thing, and you have to take a stand against evil and tyranny and these terrible things, and sometimes the only way to do that is opposing violence with violence. So that's what Howie does. They've got no choice. So they make a plan to get the children away, and they make a stand, and they're going to do it. And in the end comes, and his sister tries to confront Howie, and she's still clinging to the old ways a little bit. Well, you're enjoying this, aren't you? And we think, because remember, she confronts him on the ramparts, and she says to Howie, "You're enjoying this." And Howie's going, "No, of course I'm not. No, of course I'm not." But he fucking is. You know, this guy was a supermarket manager. He didn't have any spark about him. There's nothing about him. All of a sudden now life has depth and meaning and vibrancy, and he's got friends and he's got associates and he's got people he's willing to die for and fight alongside of. And that's gonna wake you up inside, isn't it? That's gonna give you love and passion, and so that vibrancy starting to show in him. Plus, of course, he's infected. So the infection is making him healthier and happier and more vibrant and stronger. So we start to see that straight away. And then obviously Darren hits, the fuel tanker explodes, and all these big explosions. And I wanted that to be, I want the scale to be huge. And I really wanted to learn how to break that down into key stages. I used to investigate big violent disorders, like big street fights or pub fights, and I'd take them on as the primary investigating officer, and then I'd take lots of statements from people, so I learned, I'd already learned how to take a big sprawling, rolling incident and break it down into key parts. This happened, then this happened, then this happened. So I just kind of used a lot of those skills again in describing how this first fight takes place. The housing estate explodes, and I was thinking visually, wouldn't it be amazing if the explosion is so powerful it's sending cars on fire, rolling over and over, just sailing over their heads, and everyone just the idea of these explosions happening, everyone just going, watching the arc and the trail of fire coming off the back of it, and the fear they're gonna have inside because they're gonna feel the ground trembling. They're gonna see and hear this thing coming at them, and it's dawn, and they're tired. And is it the circadian rhythm that your body's own body clock is at your lowest at that point? So the shock is more, and then all of a sudden they're coming, and it's happening. It's there, and the cannons are firing, and the guns are firing, the archers are firing, and the fire pits are being flamed, and they're giving everything they've got, and it's just not enough. There's just not enough. They can't. There's, you know, it's like Stalingrad, isn't it? There isn't enough people to throw at the bullets, so there isn't enough. There's more zombies than they've got bullets, and that's it. And it comes to the end. They've got no more guns to shoot. They either let the zombies get in over the walls and kill them, or they go out and fight. They're dead anyway. So fuck it, let's go and do it. So they do. They go down and they open the gates, and there's Howie and Dave there, and alongside of each other. I'm going first. And they charge out. Oh, getting excited. And they charge out, and they have the big battle. And I wanted Howie to get beaten and down, and of course I wanted that cinematic, climactic ending. I wanted Howie to be beaten down. He's on his knees, and he's fucked, and he's losing. And at that point, it's still linear. I've got ideas in mind. And then all of a sudden, that kind of hive mind thing kicks in. And in a situation like that, I just thought, and it's cliched, but the Lord's Prayer, I thought, that just fits. It just really fits. And there's that inner voice that's talking to him, and he assumes it's the infection, but is it the infection, or is it really him, or is it the infection speaking through him, or is it something else entirely? And because that voice fades later in the series, and it's not as prevalent, whereas in up to the first 7 days, it's a character inside of his head. And so he gets to the Lord's Prayer and he's down, and this voice is telling him it's about love. It's not about hatred. It's not about anger. It's not about violence. It's about love. And it's about loving the people around you. And all of a sudden, if you're exposed to that love and that care, that you'll find endless amounts of energy. And it's the thing about, a mother whose baby's threatened. There ain't nothing more ferocious than that, is there? That mother's love, that love. And I wanted that. I wanted Howie to have that feeling of, if we lose, the people I love will die. This isn't about me and my personal hatred to kill them now. This is about we have to do this for love. And of course the infection ignites within him. His hive mind capability just goes, spreads out. They all hear it and it galvanizes and it gives them that first pulse, and they fight back. And they win. But they don't win for free, because some of them die. And again, I was lucky because I was a voracious reader. And I think there's a famous quote, I'm pretty sure it's F. Scott Fitzgerald, that says, "If you love your darlings, kill them." And that means characters. If you love your characters, you've got to kill them, because not everyone's going to live, and it would be unrealistic to expect that. So I did. I killed quite a lot of people. That was quite hard. I love Tucker. I love Jamie. I love Curtis. There's some really good characters in there that I went chop them down and take them out. Yeah. And then they win. And there's the final fight with Darren where he gets away. But it's the victory. And they did. They won. And following that, I put them all together into one compilation, one book. Because I'd already seen the power, what was happening if I put 4 books together, The Undead, the first 4 days. So I took that down, called it The Undead, the first 7 days, and put it out. And that was the first cover that went on it. And those 7 books took me just like 7 months. I was writing a book a month. Yeah, it took about 7 months to do that. The first, yeah. And then a Vine voice reviewer on Amazon read The Undead the first 7 days. That person told their followers gave it a glowing 4-star review. Those people started reading it. Word of mouth started spreading, and then it's never looked back, and it's just gone growing ever since. So there we go. That's the history of the first 7 days. That's how I started writing it, to teach myself to write. That's why I started writing it, because I had such a big love of post-apocalyptic fiction. And it's the stages within the book that taught me how to write. And interestingly, I'll talk more about the rest. I'll do another podcast of these, and I'll talk about The Undead the second week, and then keep going. And then I'll talk about Extracted and the other books as well. But I just want to touch on this. When I finished The Undead the first 7 days, absolutely everybody I knew, even people that had read it, had said, don't continue. Everybody said, just leave it. Do something else now. If you keep going, it's just stupid. It's too much. You're like milking it. And I went, nah, I'm going to do it. And I did. And I kept going. And everyone was like, really, you're going to do another one? I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep fucking doing it. Because I was just in love. And there's no way I was going to stop writing it. But not one person said, keep going. Isn't that nuts? And now I'm writing The Undead 26. So there we go. A little trip down memory lane with our beer on a Friday night. And I'm going to go now and go and eat Thai sweet chili crisps with deli downstairs. I hope you've had a lovely week. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Much love. Bye-bye.